It sounded awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, so. Hi, everybody. I'm Rodent. Thanks. That was just a little piece with three mothers. I'm using the custom function section of the mother where you're able to, for the assignable out, assign its clock tempo to the output. And I'm routing that to using the bottom one as the master clock and then routing that to the top two. Yeah, using the voltage control mixer for the LFO that was providing some frequency modulation for kind of like the kick drums and kind of percussion track, I guess. Using the sample and hold that's in number 2 that is based on the clock tempo, running that to the cutoff in the top one, and then also running that into this bottom one as well, or the middle one. The envelope from the second one is going to, or no, it's the envelope from the top one is going to the second one into the volt per octave. And there's an attenuator on it using the voltage controlled mixer. And then the LFO from number 2 is at audio rate, and I'm using that into the top one that was the top line, kind of lead line stuff, that the last section that had like kind of like an FM type of top line through part of it. That's what I was using for the FM is the LFO at audio rate. I don't know. I guess other than that, I was telling Jake earlier, it's a little bit of a simple patch, but I like to have certain things set up to where it's really jammable for live, and that's one of the beauties of this synthesizer and its sequencer, being able to do those transpositions on the fly like that live, octave shifting on the fly, turning certain steps off super quickly, super easily on the fly. Yeah. And I guess I can definitely say the more the merrier, man. 3 of them is it was pretty fun.
I'll talk about that assignable output for a second.
Yeah, for sure.
Is that cool?
Yeah.
That was an awesome performance, and just like you said, sometimes there's 3 mothers. There's all kinds of families. The Mother-32 patch bay has 32 patch points. See what we did? But when he's referring to the assignable out, that's exactly what that is. It's that one output jack can be up to, I think, at 12 or 16 different functions. So that's a key part of connecting one mother to another one or another 2 or multiple synths, or interacting inside of a Eurorack ecosystem with other modules as well. The assignable output, when you take a mother out of the box, it's going to send a gate signal on every accent. Do you guys know what that means? Like every time there's an accent in the sequence, it'll send a signal that just says, go.
But you can make it
send a gate on every step of the sequence. You can have it send every other step. You can have it send every 4 steps. So that'll allow you to do some interesting subdivisions of this mother against another one. You can also have it create voltages or LFOs that are timed with the sequence, like Rodent was describing. You can have it on sample and hold, so it will send a random voltage at every step of a sequence, or you can have it send steps up, ramp either way, triangle, all on those 8 steps or 16 steps or whatever you're using. So the assignable output is a really powerful tool in connectedness to other instruments.
Does anybody have any questions?
Does anybody have any questions about his patch?
Roughly how many oscillators and how many filters were you using to create that, and where was the reverb cover?
The reverb I'm using is an Eventide space, and it's literally set. It was set at 49, so that was a 50-50 mix with the reverb, so it wasn't like super drenched. But So,
Mother-32.
I mean, the Mother-32 has
oscillator
one oscillator
per
per, for each mother has its own oscillator. And then I was just using the LFO of number 2 at audio rate as a auxiliary oscillator to FM, the third one's oscillator, in only that last section.
The
filters are they're all in low pass. The filter polarity is all positive.
I
was just using sample and hold from the second one on the top one.
And then just
using its own VCF mod source, and using that on its own envelope for the bottom two.
And then
the top one's envelope
was going
into the second one's volt per octave for kind of like a really sharp FM to help out with simulating a kick drum, I guess, or like a low end percussion.
Real fast, how many modules are in that rack?
In this one?
Yeah,
In this one?
It's on the screen. It's on the screen.
There's one I'm pointing to here.
There's one I'm pointing to here. That's 1, 2, 3.
Yes, sir.
Now, it
Yes,
sounded
sir.
like you said you had your lead, you had a percussion, and it sounded like you had some low end in there?
Yeah, definitely.
That was the first one. Was the kind of like the low end
Percussion, not
bass.
with lead, correct?
Yes, correct.
Now,
Yes, correct.
are you able to do that? Is the Mother-32 capable of doing that with just a single one compared to 3 of them synced up together?
So is it
able to do all 3 of those parts at once with just one of them? Kind of. I mean, you could get a lot more elaborate with
your patching, like I said.
I kind of have some really basic synthesis patching in this, where I wanted it to be able to be really, really jammable. Where like, sure, you could really deeply patch this thing and get a lot more functionality of it, but to have all 3 of those parts together,
I'm gonna say
maybe it's possible. Yeah, I mean, you can get. I've heard some other patches with these that are super intricate, and
I use
my mother somewhat similar to the way that I was tonight to go with a lot of other stuff in my Eurorack system. To where
normally
I wouldn't use it as like the low end percussion, where it'll either be like a top line or like a bass line, because this pulse width modulation bass in this thing is amazing. So that's always kind of
that's a good secret.
that's a good secret weapon bass synth for sure.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Design clock, you said that you're getting an external clock, correct? Are you using the bottom as the master?
Yeah, I'm using the bottom one.
Yeah, I'm using the bottom one as a master and using the assignable output to send its clock to the middle one and the top one. So they're all synced to the bottom one's clock.
Is it changing your tempo control directly over to your gate length, like by default? Because that knob is used for both tempo and gate.
Yeah, no.
You would adjust the gate length when you would be hitting shift, and then when you're editing per step, you would then, like I said, hit shift and then turn that gate length knob, and that's where you edit that. Where the clock pulse is that's different than the gate length. So. Yeah, you could have a really long gate length and still have your clock pulse is going to be way shorter that goes to sync up the other ones, or maybe something in your Euro rig.
How many steps is the steps?
It is up to 32.
And I
was just using in 8s and 6s. So,
any other questions?
any other questions?
Yes, I can see
your hand. Hi, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
Just when it's in keyboard
Just when it's in keyboard mode, you're able to transpose the sequence, just like up a note at a time if you want. Or I was picking specific ones that I was transposing, like the top line and the bottom line at the same time. No, I was doing that just on. You're able to do that like live, real time on the Mother, where you're using. I forget that there's the TV right here to point at it. So you can, when you're in keyboard mode, you can just change to a different key, which definitely which transposes up, or then you can obviously go back down as well, or change octave as well. And that's
in keyboard mode.
yeah. In keyboard mode, then you use the arrow keys for the octaves, and then you select which key to nail that or line that up with, and then you use the keys from there to do the transpose.
You're welcome. Yes.
You're welcome. Yes.
As far as the sequencer goes, is there any built-in memory on it, or do you have to reset the sequence every time you want to run it?
Oh no, there's
I can't remember.
I can't remember.
Up to 64.
Up to 64 sequences. So
Yes.
yes, if you do save them, and
I
highly recommend using one of when you use one of these to constantly save your sequences, because when you change to different patterns and your sequence is not saved, when you go back, it's not there. You have to reprogram it. So if you make a sequence, you make a pattern, save it before changing to a different pattern or a different bank. Because if you don't, when you go back to whatever pattern that was and what bank it was, it's not going to be there. So the banks are you hit shift and then bank, and then you use these arrow keys to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then if you don't hit shift and you just hit pattern, it's the same thing where you're selecting the different 8 patterns of the banks. That's right. Yes, 8. I forgot. Sorry, it's 8 patterns and 8 banks. So yeah, 64 total.
Yes.
Now the MIDI in, if I had a TRA
Yes.
for just drums, would that be able to go into the Mother-32 via MIDI? Would it play the notes coming out of the TRA, the drum machine?
I believe so.
I
have not used
this with MIDI. I normally use it in like my Euro system.
One of the things
that I did try to do where I've used my the clock of the eventide space into other things before to sync up like the pre-delays that would be in the space, in the reverb, with the sequencer and the timing in it. But I think that it
I couldn't
really figure out
how to
get that to
I
work.
think it
So
needs to be
I think it needs to be
more of something that's
not just sending like a clock time, but actually like a running clock, which I don't know if the space does that or not. But MIDI question might be more for Jake, because I'm a Eurorack guy. If you guys know, some of you guys know me in here and know that I don't really use MIDI too much. I have a question for all of you in here. Who's ready to hear Bana rip on this thing? That's what I'm waiting for all night. I haven't heard any of this patch that she's put together, so I'm really ready just to let her blow our minds. Well, come on, babe.
Does Jake want to say anything else? Jake, did you want to point out
Did you wanna-
anything else about the 3 units, or should I say, kind of go over it?
There's not really a lot to say except kind of obvious stuff. We make this 3-tier rack, which is really inexpensive way to mount 3 Mother-32s. You can also get it as a 2-tier if you want to do 2 Mother-32s. You can also buy the Mother-32 enclosure empty and then fill it with other Eurorack modules. So from a hardware standpoint, it's a really inexpensive and easy way to kind of to begin a Eurorack setup. When we were starting, you guys raise your hands if you have, and do it again if you have a Eurorack synthesizer system. how many people are like interested in your rack but haven't purchased any modules yet? So even more than the owners. So this is like an easy gateway into it. The Mother-32 instrument is like, it sits at this intersection between being a keyboard, right? Like something that's just like what's on the wall, like an instrument's ready to go, you don't have to patch it up. And then having modularity, which it does in the 32-point patch bay. So it's a cool way to kind of get into this world of synthesis, and that without plugging any cables in over here, you can play the Mother-32 like a mini Moog, and its signal flow is normal and it's ready to go. But all of the processes in the synth are expressed in the patch bay, so you can start to break that flow, you can start to export it to other things, and you can start to experiment with modularity. Yes?
So if you were to buy the mother case empty, as you said, what are the power options for modules?
Great question. The mother case empty is exactly that. It's just the metal in an empty chassis, and it's fairly inexpensive. I think it's $79 for that. So you would get another off-the-shelf power module like that from Make Noise or Tip Top 4MS. They're usually about 4 or 6 HP, 4 HP, and then that would have a ribbon cable that would then power the rest of the modules in the row. And that way you could start to drop some other things into it. So it's cool for getting into it. The Mother-32 is also cool. You could buy it and own it and play it on its own and never explore Eurorack synthesis and use it just as a nice way to get a Moog oscillator that's sort of MIDI controllable. Any other questions before Bana performs?
Should we move so people can see what I'm at?
Oh yeah, do you want to shift the close up? Oh wow.
There we go.
Awesome.
Unless you want to see like a
Yeah, we'll do
ghost
questions
ray.
after.
Hey, we definitely use these with Eurorack all the time. So those of you that are curious about the Mother-32 and using it with Eurorack or curious about Eurorack, we can definitely try and help answer a lot of your questions afterwards. Yes, you have another question?
I just had a question for Bana before she starts. What's in your audio chain besides the space?
I'm using the Eventide space on one effect send, and then I have the MF delay, so it's just a Moog Foger delay. You can see it. A mini Foger. I wish I had the MF 104. They don't make them anymore. But this is the temporary delay, which is an awesome little delay. So yeah. So I guess I'll just. Do you want to say anything else?
You're good.
So I'll just go ahead and play this little patch, and then we can talk about it after. I hope my shit is still in tune after temperature changes. You know, these are analog synthesizers. I didn't even sound check actually.
Do you want to break down your patch or talk about it a little bit?
Maybe we could start with questions first. If anyone had any questions about any of the sounds, we could maybe start with questions, and then that could lead to a patch breakdown. Does anyone have any questions?
I noticed at one point a lot of white noise came in and it was a little too loud, so you're mixing yourself at the same time. So it got away from you just a tiny bit. It was beautiful, by the way. But it was almost like thunder. Was that intentional, or do you have to worry about mixing yourself while you're on the fly?
Definitely have to worry about mixing yourself. Also, I didn't have a sound check, so that the first note you heard was the first note I heard also. So it's very different than my headphones. And one of the speakers is turned that way, so all of my stereo stuff I didn't hear any of it. But are you talking about the last part?
There was 2 moments where I love the whole thing, and I understand how difficult that is. It just got away from you mix-wise, not note-wise. So I was just curious, you got to watch the pots if you're going to bring something in.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you're talking about the percussion part, maybe in the middle, maybe that one got a little loud. I mean, you're working with 3 different units and two effects processors and your mixer, so it's a lot of knobs to keep track of. And I'm also facing this way, so that's something obviously I need to work on. But so you have to worry about your mix, and I think the sound you're talking about is this one maybe. So you can control it with the decay, but so that maybe.
It was beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
One of the first percussive sounds that came in was almost like a timpani or something. Do you remember like what the first percussive sound you brought in was? I was just wondering how you achieved that.
Yeah. So he was asking about the first the percussive sound. Are you talking about the bell sound?
Yeah.
That was just FM. I was just literally using the LFO, just like Eric did at audio rate, and then having that. So I don't know if you can see here, but you can route your LFO to go to the frequency of the oscillator or the pulse width if you have it on a square wave. So I had it on a square wave, but I had the LFO at audio rate, FMing the square wave at audio rate, and then it's just a question of finding what notes resonate well, because not all FM is equal. So you have to kind of fish through the keyboard and find those notes that really resonate. So that was just pretty standard like bell sounds, FM bell sounds.
Or were you patching live? I saw you doing more at the end.
Yeah, so at the end I was patching, so going back to what Jake said about the assignable output, it defaults to accent out. So I kind of kept that default, and I was using it to reset the first one. So there's a reset input. So I was taking the accent out into the reset in on the top unit, and that'll give you variations in your sequence, because it'll kind of reset it depending on what steps you have your accents set on. You can reset your sequence, and that's a really useful use. I mean, that's how I use the accent out for resets. Yeah. Andrew.
In the middle section, the top lead that you had, it sounded like there was a trill or a ratcheting happening. Is that part of the sequence, or is that something that you patched?
So he's asking about the ratchets. So I programmed in some of the ratchets, but something that I recently found out was through digging in the manual is that you can do live ratcheting. So if you just hit shift and then turn the glide up, because you can ratchet up to four times per step. So if you hit shift and then turn glide all the way up, then every single note that's going in the sequence as it's playing is going to be ratcheted, which is super, super cool to use. I was pretty excited when I found out about that. Just a little aha moment in the manual. Totally.
Can you show how that works?
Yeah,
really?
sure.
Quickly.
So, yeah. It helps to have like we'll turn all the so you hit shift, That's pretty fun to do.
Is that CVable?
No, come on, man.
Yeah, you got to use what's called hand play for that one.
Hand play. Yeah.
How are you achieving the sort of backwards sounds that you were getting in the middle section?
The backward sounds?
Well,
It was that slow attack.
Yeah.
Oh, probably, yeah, with the attack. So I just have the attack turned up. If you're talking about like the melody lines not like coming in directly,
Yeah.
that's just the attack turned up, and then you have to make sure that you're routing your VCF mod source to the envelope. Otherwise, you won't hear those attacks. So just make sure that that switch is up, and then turn your attack time up, so then it's gonna kind of fade into the note. Yeah.
Okay, tell us, spend a second and tell us about your promotional tour and where you're going and what you're trying to accomplish. It's obvious, but tell us a little about the details.
What promotional tour?
Well, aren't you on tour promoting Moog modules?
No, this is just so.
No,
this is-
recent
well,
we
yeah.
live here actually.
Yeah, I don't know. There's no tour.
I'm sorry, I overheard you saying you were going to Portland or something like that. I thought you were on a tour.
No, we're going to Portland with a friend of ours, but I mean, I will be using some other, but it's different. It's different. That's just us. Yeah.
You can tell them about modular on the spot.
Yeah, we will. I was gonna get to that.
Yeah, maybe we'll kind of finish.
We'll get to that. Go ahead.
A question for both of you. How long have you been synthesizing?
Me with, I consider this a semi-modular synth, and with stuff like this and modular for 4 years, and then with synthesis and drum machines and all that as a whole, like 20 plus.
Maybe 2.5 years. I didn't know a cable from a banana.
Cool.
I just want to get a sense of like, what do you do? Like, obviously you have to do some preparation with all the patches and everything and many sequences, and then you maybe have like a framework of the direction you're going to go compositionally, and then there's like these happy accidents maybe that happen. How much of that is like reproducible, and like what's your process? How do you prepare?
I think it depends on the instrument, but with something like the Mother, I mean, kind of like what Eric said, it's so playable live. There's so many things you can do while the sequencer is going that, you know, every time I run through it, it's kind of, it takes on a life of its own, and it's really not the same each time. So what I do with this specific instrument is I'll save certain sequences that I know will sound good together, but I don't really play them at the same time. Like sometimes I'll play a sequence and think like, oh, actually a drone would sound better under this, or another sequence, or so it kind of changes depending on the piece. Sometimes I have a specific melody in mind that I program, or it just kind of, yeah, it's different.
So each time it's kind of a lot of in the moment.
Yeah, especially with this instrument because it's so playable live. Yeah.
So you can't remember any of that.
Yeah, it's hard to prepare.
You kind of
because-
remember, you can remember kind of like a lot of what you did, like some of the register shifting stuff that I was doing, like sure I remember kind of what that stuff was, but like that's one of the reasons why, so the people in the back in here, why my sequences, I like to set them up kind of really basic. I mean, obviously you could tell mine sounded a little more basic than Dana's. But I like to set mine up really basic and then do all the changes, add all the changes and stuff live on the fly. And that's what's really cool about this synth is you're able to really do that. So.
Follow-up question, sorry. I'm a DJ first and foremost.
Okay.
I MIDI sync drum machines to my vinyl setup.
Okay.
And I'm just curious about the MIDI in. Is there a MIDI out on that, or does that have to be the last chain in the sequence?
No, it's just a MIDI in. So I mean, it doesn't have to be. Well, I guess it could be one of your ends, or if you used like a splitter and sent that MIDI out to a couple different destinations, and it could just be one of those.
Because the older drum machines don't have a CV.
Yeah.
Like my 303 doesn't have a
Yeah.
CV or whatever.
But and one of the things that we were talking about, like with in going into programming, like the assignable out and assigning like and to the tempo input, you're able to. There's 3 different options for the tempo input, and one of them is for MIDI, I believe. Or actually, no. It starts to. As soon as you patch MIDI into it, it starts to. The MIDI clock will override like the.
Because my MIDI clock has a fader pitch, so.
Yeah, so you can, if you run it right in, it'll just start syncing it up for sure. Especially one that's like running a sequence that's running a clock. Yeah.
Question over here. What you're building on what you're talking about, accessibility and being able to play live, how would you compare it to similarly priced things like Dark Energy and Zero Coast and things like that? So I was just watching you up here playing and you were just like, it's right now. It's kind of amazing.
Yeah. So one of the big things compared to like you're referring to like the Dope for Dark Energy or the Make Noise Zero Coast, both are awesome analog patchable desktop synths. I'll start off saying that for sure. What the Mother-32 has is it has a very versatile sequencer built into it, and that's what was allowing us to do a lot of variation sequence-wise, timing-wise, transpositions, octave shifting, all that stuff on the fly. You're not going to get that. The Dark Energy was made to work with the dark time, and the O-Coast is made to work with whatever you want to patch into it, whether that's MIDI out from a computer or keys or from another Euro system. So, I mean, this thing does have a really, really awesome sequencer and a very versatile sequencer where, like I was saying, you could tell how I kind of ran mine a little more basic and Bana kind of really threw a lot of variation and a lot of more intricate programming into like a lot of sequencing, so you can really tell like you can get deep with this sequencer for sure.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Would I be able to use this with, let's say, the System 1M analog synth that Roland has? Like I use it for plugins through Ableton. Would these be able to work together in that sense? One analog, one digital?
Yeah, I don't see why I wouldn't. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, voltage.
Yeah, that's the. Oh yeah, for sure. I had to think for a second, but yeah, that's the digital one. Yeah.
And then we wanted to create something that would play in the space that the Eurorack scene created, but still kind of speak to what Moog has been ever since 1971, which is kind of a keyboard company. You know, it started here like 1964, but what put Moog on the map was the Mini Moog, and so we saw the way that unlocked synthesis to a whole new group of people. We still wanted to speak to the modularity. So that's kind of the background on the Mother. As far as what other things may come, of course, I can't comment on or confirm or deny projects. Okay, turn off the cameras for 2 minutes. I'll tell you everything.
Convert that through the Minotaur through the Mother, it just feels like there's another step. Like it feels like, I don't know, it feels like Moog's doing pretty well with the Mother.
Yeah, it's been a really successful synth for us. It has, like I said before, it's opened us up to a lot more players, and it's let it kind of commingle and play in that genre of instrument. Of course, the Mother can, I'm on the wrong one, it can come out of this chassis and go into another Eurorack system. You can use it just like a module, but it's definitely, we've taken note of its, importance in that scene, and who knows what it might be coming down the pike in the future. Any other?
So this question's definitely for you. So very much like, actually I'm very intrigued that there's sub-menus in the Mother-32. Just like the sub-fatty, how there's a secret menu to access the, what is it, not duophonic, but paraphonic. Is there a secret menu in the Mother-32, something similar like that?
That's a good question. He's asking about secret functions. In order to put a lot of functionality into an economy of buttons and space, we do hide a lot of the functions under, like Bana was describing, the shift function that lets you live ratchet. You have to go into a setup mode to change the assignable output that I was describing. So there's nothing secret or hidden, but we've decided to print the Mother-32 manual on actual real paper size. And it's, has anyone who owns a Moog ever had to crack into their manual find that it's written in pretty good, plain English?
It's pretty,
I think that's kind of...
It's not too painful.
Exactly. I'm a drummer, and I totally can understand all this stuff. So out here, they'll outline all of the secret handshake modes, all of the key combinations that will get you everywhere. It takes a minute, but once you discover what's there, you can use it to let these things become much more musical.
Another cool secret, I mean, it isn't a secret thing, but something that I recently found out and I was pretty excited about is if you have it on step mode, you can offset the sequence, like offset the first step of the sequence. So you just literally put your sequence, use it shift step so that you're in step mode. And then the right and left buttons turn into a sequencer shift.
Okay, so like if your sequence sounds really off if it starts on 1, but it sounds better if it starts on 3, you can start
Exactly, so you can scoot your sequence, so you can, yeah, which is super cool. I was also very excited to find that. That's like another golden nugget buried in the manual. But, yeah.
Can you guys do something together?
No, not right now, man. It's like this shit takes some. It takes some time.
We can, but that's going to lead me to wanting to mention something else that's really important to Bana and I. And earlier when Jake asked everybody in here who's interested in Eurorack and who's interested in patchable stuff like the Mother-32, but especially Eurorack, Bana and I started something 1.5 years ago for this community that's called Modular on the Spot. And it's a modular synth picnic, and it's every month. It actually is happening tomorrow night at Spoke Bicycle Cafe in Frogtown at 7 o'clock. There's 4 people. Maybe Bana's going to bring the mothers and do something with them, maybe not. But we have people lined up to play, and they're free, always outdoors, and it's always modular synth only. So some of the awesome keyed synths that you see here in drum machines, we don't use that. If you're really interested in Eurorack, this is kind of like an event and a lead into the local community here that uses Eurorack. I see plenty of friends here that have been to Modular on the Spot, that have played at Modular on the Spot, and if you're interested in modulars and Eurorack, or patchable stuff to start with. Like people ask me all the time, like, hey, what's a great synth to get to start and learn patching and synthesis? And sure, I say either the Mother-32 or like the Make Noise O-Coast. But yeah, Modular on the Spot is tomorrow night. If you have any questions about it, please feel free to ask Bana and I. And like I said, it's open to everybody, and they're always outdoors. And
where is it again?
They're really cool. It's in Frogtown tomorrow night at Spoke Bicycle Cafe, which is a really cool outdoor cafe that sits on the LA River bike path.
Thank you.
So, and it's at 7 o'clock. So it's a great way to come and meet other people that are playing with Eurorack and playing with modulars, and being able to meet other people in the community and pick their brains. At a few people here tonight that were asking me about stuff and asked me about Modular on the Spot. And that's one of the reasons why we started it, was to bring our friends together and play outdoors in a really cool open space. And it's, I don't know, 1.5 years now. Now it's in tons of different cities all over the United States. And is awesome. So if you have any questions about that, ask either of us afterwards. Was there any other questions about the Mother-32 or the patches that we were doing, or when the next shipment of pizza is going to show up? No, I'm just kidding.
It's coming up.
Okay, yeah, no, I was just kidding, but there is actually another load of pizza showing up in 10 minutes. So, yeah, hey, does everybody, who's got a raffle ticket? Raise your hand if you got a raffle ticket. Okay, are we done passing them out, Brad, or are we still passing them out? Okay, we still have some. Who needs one? Who needs a raffle ticket? Okay, there's like 5 people that need. Okay, if you need a raffle ticket, come up here and get one. Because we have some here. You can hand me a bunch, and I'll pass them out to people. Hey, thanks everybody for coming here tonight. And I will say this. Thanks to Perfect Circuit for having events like this, bringing our community together, and doing cool stuff. Who all needs a raffle ticket? There you go. There's one for you. There's one for you. Who else needs one? Am I missing anybody? Sorry. Wait. Okay, come on up. If you need a raffle ticket, come on up. Got him right here. Yes, sir, with the shades. Come on up. We got you. There you go. Anybody else need a raffle ticket? That's everybody. Cool. I don't know when Jake and Brad want to do the drawing for that thing. Should we do it? Should we do it? All right, they're going to start setting it up. I did want to say also something about Perfect Circuit, that I come in here a lot, and the guys that work here know the modular stuff and know these synthesizers really well. So this is a really good resource for learning as well as coming here. So that is something to consider as well if you're interested in this stuff. But yeah, we'll do the raffle here in a minute. Pizza's showing up in a minute. Hang tight. And don't hesitate to come up and high-five us or ask any other questions.
Fantastic show.